Welcome to the Myers Detox Podcast. My name is Wendy Myers, and you can learn more about heavy metal detox, what this podcast is about, on myersdetox.com. Today we have James Goren on the show, and he's going to be talking about a very, very important topic, and it's about the voltage in your cells and how your cells work through having a certain electrical voltage, and how EMF, electromagnetic fields, and other factors in our environment like dirty electricity lower the voltage in our cells and therefore dramatically negatively impact their functioning. And some ways on how you can improve the voltage in your cells to improve a multitude of health issues, symptoms, and disease. Because if your cells work properly, your body will as well. And so he is one of the consultants at PureWaveNow.com. This is a company that makes a PEMF mat. It's a pulsed electromagnetic field mat, and they have other devices as well. The company works with hundreds and thousands of doctors around the country, delivering pulse electromagnetic field to thousands and thousands of patients, and the results are absolutely astounding. This is one of the very first companies in the 80s to patent their device, and everyone following that is just a copycat. And even what we talk about in the podcast, producing harmful mats, producing harmful electric waves, harmful EMF in these mats, and why buyer needs to beware. So we're going to be talking exactly how the cells work, how the PureWave mat improves cellular functioning to dramatically improve pain, fatigue, and just get the body detoxing better even. We touch on that as well. I know so many of you listening to today's show are looking to detox their body from heavy metals, or looking really just to relieve their symptoms and are trying to educate themselves on the underlying root causes of their symptoms so that they can feel better. Well, I created a quiz to help to determine what your potential levels of heavy metals are in your body. And after you take the quiz, you get some educational videos, like a little masterclass almost, on some tips and tricks and solutions on how to remove heavy metals from your body. Please go to heavymetalsquiz.com to learn about your levels of heavy metals and what you can do about it. Our guest today, James Goren, is a consultant for PureWaveNow.com, and he started out his career going to medical school and then switched to electrical engineering and making biomedical equipment and servicing this type of equipment, and even working for a company that made pacemakers. And this is really where he learned so much, and where he was really struck by how the body worked electrically and how the cells really need to carry a certain voltage to work properly. And he also suffered from his own debilitating connective tissue disease and was in unremitting pain for many, many years until he met Tony Goren, who is the founder and CEO of PureWaveNow.com, who makes PEMF mats. And he had relief from his pain after he started using this type of mat, or this specific mat. And since then, he has joined the company as a consultant and is going to come on the show today to educate us about how the cells work and how this PureWave mat helps the cells to work even better to relieve your symptoms. James, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate being able to get some word out there and some knowledge. Maybe I can help out some people.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what health sector you're in.
Okay, so ever since I was little, I knew and I could feel that there was energy that ran through our body, and that's really what our our bodies run on is electrical energy, but it's not really electrical, it's electromagnetic. Our brain pulses through the body frequency signals, very much like an EKG for the heart, only all the organs in the body have their own specific waveform electromagnetic key, like they're all cut to different tissues, different cells. And I knew this when I was younger, and I always aimed for finding out more, because there's been no information about this, even here 30, 40 years later. Well, 60, I'm 62. It's nothing that we learned in school. There wasn't much about it. They just said, oh yeah, sure, the brain, it sends pulse bursts of signals through the body, and then the tissues, they chime back and they send information back, and it's back and forth, and then the cells and the tissues, they function and they receive what they need. They put out requests. Well, so I aimed straight for medical school, and was very much let down as I was approaching and getting close to entering that. And ended up going for biomedical engineering, electrical engineering, and organic chemistry. So I studied these three areas because they came together. This is really how the body functions, by covering all aspects of that. So when I finished my 2 years at Tufts New England Medical in downtown Boston, I was a biomed engineer there and an OR tech. I worked in the OR. I ran all the electronic equipment, and this was monitoring equipment, diagnostics, interactive, everything that plugged in the wall or ran on batteries in the entire hospital. I would need to do periodical checkouts, monthly or every 3 months, troubleshooting, repairs, and just training, general knowledge and teaching to the staff. So from there, I still didn't have my answers. How does the body work? Nobody seemed to be able to tell anybody exactly how this process works. So then I got an offer to join a pacemaker company in Miami, Cordis Corporation, in 1980. And I started to understand, because once you go in and you start working with people with cardiac, areas of work, you're understanding that it really is electrical signals coming from the brain through an entire chemical pathway. It's chemical reactions that cause electromagnetic frequency signals. They're actually talking. And the wild part is the body function with all of these signals. There's about 1 trillion different types of signals that our body runs on, since we have 70 trillion cells in our body as an average. Well, these signals function with very, very small power, small voltage, but they're functioning between 0 and 10,000 hertz of frequency. So frequency energy starts out in the realm of sound, what we can hear. Our bodies work only in that area. 0 to 10,000 hertz. We can act, if the power was higher, we could actually hear the signals going through. If we amplify those signals using, just like a radio pickup, mini amplifier with an inductor pickup, it's like a little microphone. You can hear that small power signal that the brain is pushing through the whole body. Our system from pure wave, with these mats and coils built right in, are doing exactly that. But
yeah, so this is a mat. So it's a mat that you lay on and get various benefits from. And there's a lot of mats out there. Like there's a Beamer, and there's other ones that
IMRS, OMI. Yeah, it keeps going and going.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of those for various reasons. So that's what we're talking about right now. So let's continue our discussion about, how does this type of mat, improve the cell's functioning?
Okay, so PEMF, the standard systems out there, they do what what my neural stim did. I worked on a neural stim for this pacemaker company. I was the director and project engineer of the first implantable external neural stim. It blocks pain. As soon as you turn it on, boom, pain gone. But how are we blocking the pain? We were blocking these signals that I was talking about. We actually put a pacemaker lead right up into the spinal column to the base of the brain, right in the gateway where the nerves all bundle up. And we could target and just flip the switch, shut off pain from the waist down, the left side of the body, the right side of the body. And the way we did this was we put in EMF. There's good EMF, which is electromagnetic frequencies or fields, and then there's bad EMFs, which is technology-caused EMFs. These are static, like that. Okay, that's actually radiation, by the way. And so in finding that the body runs on these very small signals, we could put EMF into the spinal column, right up in these nerve bundles, and right out of the pacemaker lead, it was putting EMF all over the outside sheath of the nerves. It was actually static, like when you rub a balloon on your belly and you get static, and your hair, can stick up, or you can shock somebody when you touch them in the dry weather. That's EMF. So we put EMF right inside the body and surrounded the nerves with EMF and blocked the signals to the brain. This immediately shuts off pain, but it also shuts off communication, all communication coming out of those cells and tissues from that area. And then coming back from the brain to those tissues and cells, that's also blocked. So this is something that was a Band-Aid. It never healed anything. And it's still in use today worldwide. I'm sure they licensed it out to many, many companies.
And this is the electrostim?
Yeah, this is
electrostim.
Yeah,
electro. Ooh, I got that when I went to physical therapy, when my lower back was hurting. I got on one of those every time I went to the physical therapist, and I felt amazing. But then you walk out of the office and go home.
One day. You're good for one day. And after they turn it off, it all comes back.
That's why I was in there 3 days a week.
That became the TENS unit, transcutaneous electrical stimulation. So we did it in the very small way directly to the tissues and nerves inside the body with a pacemaker lead. And we didn't cure a thing, but yet we got people their lives back. When they would turn that thing on, they could run it for a couple hours. But after 2.5 hours back then, the communication's blocked going to the tissues, in and out. They start to die off. They putrefy. You're actually melting the brain stem if you left it on more than 2.5 hours. And today, they could run it on many people up to 6 to 8 hours. So they have a on time where they get their lives back. They can get up out of a wheelchair. I mean, really, these people would get up off the operating room table. We'd have them sit up, get off, and walk around just by flipping the switch on. And there was a lot of crying that went on, always. I mean, it was a wonderful thing. Just had to be careful how you used it. And anyway, now with technology, cell phones, when these are up against our bodies, and they're very close, this is a very simple EMF meter. It's a tri-field 100XE. They were on Amazon. They're like $140. It shows the radiation, though. It goes right up. And I think you can see that. Yeah, there you go.
Did you accidentally summon me?
No, I didn't, but there we are. That's Sari talking. She doesn't like the EMF either. So when we're talking like this EMF goes into our tissues, and it really shuts off communication for quite a while. And it does build up, but we're getting it more from everywhere we go than ever before.
Oh, and when you look at your wireless internet networks, I mean, there's 30 or 50 or more. So if you live in a condensed area like New York City or an apartment building, there are going to be so many, all disrupting your energy field and your cells functioning.
Yes, exactly. So we need to figure out a way to clean this off. And there are companies that are starting to come out with products that really do work in a big way. But the number one so far is this pure wave therapy technology, where they they patented the elimination of EMF, electromagnetic or interfering fields, from the body and the surrounding area. They did it solely to be able to communicate to cells directly with their little, very small power electromagnetic signals, waveform signals, so they could actually unlock the cells and get them to charge up. And that's their other patent. They charge up the energy in cells, actually turning on mitochondrial function and proving it. Science substantiation is all there. They have hundreds of studies showing how they got to these accolades and patented each aspect of how a cell functions, how it actually communicates in and out to the brain and back. Therefore, they could increase the energy in the cells and cause a calcium cascade dump, which is a detox at the cellular level. So when we run this system, we don't really feel like we're detoxing at all, but yet we really are. And we know that when you have EMF or the cell phones right next to you for 5 minutes, your cells just, they open up those receptor walls that let calcium in. That's the biggest culprit to, it's my personal opinion, the biggest culprit to our disease today that's hitting us everywhere. You see it all starting up in such a huge way. It's like everybody's achy and has pain and discomfort, and things aren't functioning. Their cells are, they're in dysregulation. They're lower energy than they should be, and the inside of the cell walls become clogged with calcium atoms or silt.
Okay, so our cells today are working on low voltage. And so what does that mean? What happens when cells are operating with low voltage, not the amount of voltage they're supposed to have, and how does the pure wave solve that problem?
All of the cells in our body are like little batteries. So they hold energy, and then they therefore will utilize them for different functions. And the body does have a priority list. It knows what to use first, second, third, what's most important. When an area starts to become charged up, it'll choose in that area what's the most important thing to give nutrients and supply first before the other area parts in that area.
So cells are supposed to operate at a certain voltage. We know EMF is disrupting that. Is there anything else that's causing that low voltage in the cell? And what should the voltage be? You said 70 millivolts?
Yeah, 70 millivolts on the internet and everywhere. It seems to be the threshold where we want to be above 70 millivolts to have optimally functioning cellular function. In other words, every part of the body, every cell in the body, it needs at least 3/4. For instance, young children run 90 to 100 millivolts in all the cells in their body as an average. Of course, different tissues are slightly higher, other tissues are slightly lower, but that's a pretty good point to hold it at. I'm finding that I can actually measure how much EMF is permeated and stuck all over the tissues of a person just by putting a phone emitting radiation right up against the forearm and having an EMF meter on the other side, just like this. When the radiation goes off, if we have very high EMF in here and low cellular energy below 70 millivolts, the needle just pins. This radiation goes in and it sticks, and it just cranks that needle all the way up 3/4, as if I just put the cell phone right against it, and yet it's going through my entire arm. When I measure children, they remain on zero. They're above 70 millivolts, and that seems to be the threshold where EMF doesn't stick. It just blows off. It just lets go. So we can actually become resilient to electromagnetic radiation or electrosmog radiation, as it's seen everywhere, written that way. There's 3 ways to remove EMF from the body. One way is to walk outside and walk in the grass. And they say go barefoot. It's probably even better, but I think just walking outside and not being on concrete, that's the key. Going to the beach has very high ionic charge in the air from the salts, from especially near salt water, but even fresh water, same thing. They have high ionic levels. These ions is what our cells actually use to charge our body with. So being surrounded in them and having them all over your skin and body and all around you, you will absorb and charge up. And the earth does that to us naturally, but now we spend all of our days and nights inside on concrete. See? Yeah. And the hippies used to say, go out and hug a tree and you'll feel better. They weren't wrong. They really had it right. Because when you do that, you completely ground out all the EMF and static from all the power lines and the fluorescent lights, and even driving in your car in the front seat with a dashboard, you're getting EMF'd the entire time. It's emitting all over you, and you can measure it with such a simple meter. Now, most people can measure it, but they don't know what to do. This is like X-rays, it's invisible. It's electronics, and what's worse is it's not just electronics, it's electromagnetic electronics. So, but this is how the body runs. Every 20 milliseconds, the whole body gets a zap. It goes through, and the ones that need things will chime back in the same fashion. So it's like music or sound. Our bodies are only working in that area that our bodies are music boxes. It's probably why we all love music and the beat and rhythm and harmonizing.
Yeah, and the music frequencies are healing, or they're very jarring and disruptive and irritating.
Oh, absolutely true. The ones that are healing have been shown to be the ones that crisscross harmonics. They actually tickle your healing initiators biologically in your bodies and set up the healing mechanisms. When you're listening to music and it tickles, that's it. It just hit. Yeah, it's like, oh, I love that song. So right away you start getting the little tickles. I describe them as champagne bubbles. Very, very slight, very subliminal. But then when you hit the best part of the song, oh, I love that part of the song. That's where those harmonics just crisscrossed. And that is what this mat actually does. It sends out crisscrossed harmonics of all the different frequencies of all the tissues in the whole body all at once.
Yeah, and so you're talking about the pure wave mat.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, the other PEMFs, they're all the same. They just pulse, bang, 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 power on, power off. They'll make a sawtooth shape, and they say that's better than the square shape, or the square wave was used in NASA. Oh, please, NASA. They analyzed all of this. They know what they found out there, and they won't use anybody's technology. Once they research something like this, and they did this, 20, 30 years ago, they make their own systems. So this company, PureWave, was in the 80s, the very first company to start making these types of mats. And so they have this patented technology that other people try to copy and are not able to do it. Can you discuss that a little bit? These people from the PureWave technology, they're from Germany, and they worked with the Russians as well. They got their system in space as a test. It was in the Mir space station, and it's the only one that's ever been in space. After that, like I said, they made up their own products. That was that. So when they discovered these, that the body could actually, we could synthetically run the signals through the whole body as if the brain was doing it, and cause healing and remove anxiety and make basically all of your cellular function and your brain synapses, your neurons, everything just running optimally by increasing energy up. They went ahead and patented it so that the whole world would have the technology revealed. No other company, I haven't seen any. There's 146 different PEMF systems out there that I know of, and I have not seen any science substantiation showing exactly that it does this to the body or that to the body. They just don't have that. They're mostly fluff and marketing, and they're running on the wave of, oh, we're a PEMF.
Yeah, and people have to be very, very careful, because some of these PEMF mats can be very, very harmful. It can emit very high levels of EMF that might make you feel good temporarily, but then ultimately are harming your body.
You just hit the nail on the head right there. That's spot on. Most PEMFs have huge EMF. The WHO Worldwide Health Organization, the WHO organization shows that 10 millivolts of EMF, electrosmog radiation, is the maximum that any person should be exposed to on a daily basis. This system runs, when it's on 5 millivolts. And when it's off, it's on 0. When you look at all these other PEMFs, and I run around measuring them with a very simple EMF tri-field meter, when you measure them, they're 680 millivolts or 430 millivolts. And when they're off, they're still running 290 and 330. It shows me that they're all working like my old neural stim, where they're just blocking the pain signals going to the brain temporarily, but they do all have the one healing aspect that they need to stay in business. And this will be a hit or miss. Say for a room full of 100 people, there'll be a handful that within a week or two of running a session every day or a couple times a week, they'll find some healing aspect that hits instantly in the form of pain loss, maybe circulation turn on, any number of things, even eyesight, glaucoma, all of that. The body only supplies 30% circulation from the heart through the body. This is all through veins and arteries. All the rest is our capillary and microcapillary system. That's what flows and floods blood in and out with nutrients and removal of waste through the circulatory system. 70% of our body runs that way by pulsing and counting. The whole body is acting like a heart. Okay, got it? So a heart is pumping 30% of the blood, and that's through all the big circulatory supply. Through all the small microcapillary and capillary system, we pulse 5 to 8 times every 20 seconds as an average for a healthy human being, where the blood will flow into these capillaries, and it's like the tide came in, and then it withdraws and the tide comes out. It's really, really important that we do this, or we're going to lose circulation in all of our extremities and surface area and fascia everywhere. So all these PEMF systems, that's their health aspect. They regulate by pulsing and trying to get close to that 20 millisecond window of pulse and then shut off. When areas are damaged, like if you bang your arm, this is an area now that the voltage just dropped in these tissues and my circulation has dropped down. So now if it's injured badly, it'll be cut off with inflammation. I won't get any supply or very low supply of blood and nutrients to this damaged area. But when I'm pulsing artificially to make sure I get that 5 to 8 vaso squeeze or vascular squeeze motion through the body, these capillaries will do all their best to push in and stimulate and deliver nutrients and supply to the damaged area, and then they withdraw and draw out the waste. So that's your healing aspect of all PEMFs. They'll never hurt anybody. Even though they've got very high EMF, they're not left on. They're not continuous all day. For those people who run a little too long, they'll find out what it's like to feel radiation poisoning. It'll bleed off, but it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that's why I've never recommended any of these like mat type devices before, because I really didn't see a lot of compelling evidence. There were a lot of testimonials on the site, but really not anything that was really satisfying to me in order to make a recommendation to my clients to get one. Because I've had Beamer contact me trying to get me to represent them and blah, 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 blah. But with your mat, it's very, very impressive. The results that people get, and let's talk about some of the benefits that can be had from using a pure wave mat.
Okay, so the difference is that we don't compare the pure wave system to the other PEMS. We just tell you what ours does. And when you look at what ours does, and then you look at what others do, you'll find that any of these MLM companies, they're like holding each other's hand and telling each other the same stories over and over and over so they can each repeat the same thing and get other people to just hook on and buy. And that's not a great thing. We want healing. We want the real deal. And the difference is when you are talking to the cells specifically and having them open up and energize, they start functioning optimally to the point where they're working and fixing and changing for the next 8 to 12 hours just from doing a 15-minute session on this thing. They'll fix and change in a very, very optimal way. That 20 millisecond pulse break, this pure wave technology, they own the patent on that. But that's just such a minor component of what can be done when you talk to the cells directly and have them open up and clean themselves out without a feeling of bad detox. And then to energize and draw in energy and nutrients at the level of like what a child would have if you had that much energy. So it was all about energy, how much energy is in the cells and how much work they can do in a short time. So with this type of system, the pure wave, we see black and blue marks and injuries, bleeding under the skin, open wounds, hematomas. Everything dissipates like right before your eyes in about 75% in one session. And we're not allowed to say the P word, pain. So we refer to it as severe chronic discomfort caused from injuries, disease, things like that. And what do we see in one session? We see 80 to 100% relief. And most times these are people that for the first time in 20 or 30 years since an awful car accident or disease, it starts to become eliminated every time you run the session. And it's not a Band-Aid. Your body will fix itself a little bit every single time. And every time you run a session, it's more and more and more. And it doesn't go backwards. It just keeps accumulating. So that's what the real system does. This is the founding company of PEMF. They discovered the technology. They were the first to invent it, the first to make they weren't the first to make PEMF, by the way. That was the 1800s. But the first to make a body mat where they could energize the whole body on a mat that could be in a person's home or a clinic. And in 15 or 20 minutes, their cells are functioning so optimally because they've been increased in energy. And then that EMF has, from all this has been removed from the body, but the effect lasts 8 to 12 hours. Oh, that's another thing. We know when you talk on the phone or you have any kind of EMF radiation very close to you and all over your body, your blood clumps up. It does reload. And this is all over the internet. There's many people out there that do live blood analysis. And they're starting to learn how to utilize that to make people better.
So the EMF, like how does that negatively affect the cells?
Okay, so we know when there's static on the outside cell membranes, it's disrupting fields. It's static. It actually ruins the communication going up to the brain and from the brain back down to those tissues. So we're missing some of the information or not getting it at all. When we pulse with any type of PEMF that's small, very low voltage like the brain does, microtesla, that very small window is 0 to 40 microtesla. This is where you can talk to the cells. So when we do that, we single out all the blood cells. They become slippery. They're no longer rouleaued or stacked up or sticky. They don't have static all over them when we're pulsing. Even though like these PEMFs that have high EMF output, the electrosmog, when they're pulsing, the blood separates. And it could be shown on most of these ultra small voltage systems like Beamer, IMRS. But when they turn it off, that blood goes right back and coagulates. And we've seen this, and it can be science substantiated by anyone doing live blood analysis. As soon as they shut it off, the cells do not remain single file. So PEMFs, when they're running, people feel good on them, even if they're harsh. And many of them are harsh. People are becoming more sensitive to small electromagnetic radiation that is irritating. So they're starting to realize that when they run a regular standard PEMF system, they feel good. The blood cells separated. All of a sudden, their oxygen is increased, their circulation is increased, and they're timing the pulse bursts on, off, although they're not optimal. The optimal that was discovered is 20 millivolts. The PureWave technology people in Germany, they own the 20 millivolts. They discovered it. They were the first, the founders of the research. And they gave it to the world by showing it in patents. So that proves that they can charge up a cell. They can eliminate and remove EMF radiation from the cells and the whole body. And they cause a calcium cascade dump of cleansing of the cell in a very soft, nurturing way that's not a bad feeling of detox.
Yes. Yeah. And so let's talk more about benefits that people will feel when, like, you witnessed, working with, so many different people using the PureWave mat. What are some of the improvements they see?
When you run a PureWave system for 15 minutes, even 5 minutes in science substantiation, it shows all those blood cells separate, and they remain separated for 8 to 12 hours. Just from running a 15-minute session, because we've removed and eliminated the EMF from the whole body, and then we've energized the cells. If they're up near 70 millivolts, surrounding EMF, you're walking around resilient like children. If we keep our energy up and we come in out of the electrical storm and get rid of this EMF off of our bodies and energize up to that 70 millivolts or a little higher, we're resilient. We're walking around like little young children. So when we energize up to that level, all these damaged areas, the body will go right after each area on its own, on a priority list. When we lie down on the full body system, this is the length of our entire body. This is what we put in our bed. It turns on and off by itself if you want it to. I like mine to go off at midnight for 24 minutes. It turns on, powers up, runs, and powers down and shuts off. It doesn't make any noise, and there's no light, so it doesn't wake me, no beeps. And then at 6 a.m., I have it go on and off again before I wake up. So now I've been energized all night, and we can actually flip the switch and put people into parasympathetic by running the relax program. And this is where brain stimulation, when it sees a little step up in the lower range between 0 and 15 hertz, the brain will put us into a relaxed state of parasympathetic. That's what it's called. That's where we do the most amount of healing, and it's when we go into a deep sleep. And this system does that. We just flip the switch, and everybody, even the little Chihuahua dogs, when they're barking, it's like they're on remote control. It's like, watch this. I'll put relax, press start, and within 1 minute, 2 minutes, that dog just settles right down. It might be the first time a little Chihuahua has ever settled down. And it does it on all of them, everyone I've tried. So that's something that we do that others don't do. PEMFs, they run 1 or 2 frequencies out of that 10,000 hertz range because they're not making signals to actually have the keys for every tissue in the body, every cell. They're just trying to stimulate one little area, 15 hertz, bang, 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 bang. So what hertz is different than power. Hertz is how many pulses per second, tick, 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 tick per second. And when you tick, 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 the brain counts. It causes a vasosqueeze. Here and there, they'll get a hit or miss. Some people will find some great health change in a fairly short time, which is wonderful. But yet all those other tissues in the body remain low energy. And they're dousing them with high EMF the entire time, which helps block pain signals. So people will be like, oh, my pain, it's diminished. Yeah, it's really, my hip. It's not, oh, that's so good. But that's temporary. Their EMF is huge. And it's a very difficult thing to remove from very small pulsed electronic emitters. And they don't have that technology. I have not seen one that has come out with it since this PureWave company, PureWave Technology, out of Germany.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the benefits people will feel. So what are some of the changes that you've seen and improvements in different health issues that people have reported?
Okay, well, I can talk about myself personally. I'm pretty much a poster child. I have my grandmother's disease. She bestowed that upon me. It's called Lederhosen disease, similar to Dupuytren's. It's like their sister diseases. I get huge fibroids that form on tendons. My tendons are actually micro-tearing. They're wearing out too soon. So that's a DNA disposition gene that's broken or not exactly correct. So the more you use your fingers and hands and feet, the more the tendons have little micro tears and cause fibroids. So they're wearing out very quickly. And I was pretty active through my life with sports and fishing and boating and everything. So these huge lumps form with horrible detrimental results. All the nerves wrap up in the areas of the fibroids. They're pulling and tearing, and the pain is excruciating. But then those fibroids break away and go through your blood system, or through mine, into the brain, into the organs, the teeth, the jaw, that's an organ. Within 2 years, I went from beautiful teeth like these, and these are my real teeth. I fixed them with this machine. I'm not kidding you. I had full-blown periodontal disease, big, huge spaces between my teeth, all 4 and 5 pockets, and mostly 5s at the end of the 2 years. They told me, just prepare. In another year, you're going to lose all of your teeth. There's no stopping it. I looked at getting veneers, and they said, don't even bother. You're already beyond it. And the bone had already recessed so far. So when I put this system in my bed, it was for my feet, because right away in one session, the inflammation, what we generally see and what I saw on me, is that we came down 75% in size of these big, huge fibroids or plantar fibromatosis on the bottom of my feet and in my hands. And the pain was 100% eliminated on me in 20 minutes for the first time in my life. And it had got so severe. I had blood pressure of 195 over 145 just from the pain. I was at the point where I didn't want to do any more meds. I refused them, but they said if I hit 200, my heart would explode after that, and I'd have to be on them. That's when we went and tried this thing. And in one session, I cried. I stood up, and the pain was 100% gone. And the inflammation was down 3/4 of the way. So anyway, we took it home. But while we were still at this conference, it was a product that my wife knew about. She just didn't know how good it was and what it could actually do. When I started reading the research that they show right online and the patents, and when you submit a patent, that's the real deal. It shows how it works, what the mechanism is, what the biological interaction is, and and how well will it work. That's the thing. This thing just does it. It's not a question of that. It's not, oh, let me try it, and if it works on me, I think I'll want to do this. It works on people and animals. It even works on plants. So anyway, I had asthma, 36 years of occupational chronic asthma from working as a chemist. I was an organic chemist, and burnt my lungs out. And then I was on steroid spray for 30 years, Advair, became Advair. Before that, it was 2 or 3 different medicines that made Advair. Twice a day, I could not get out of my bed until I reached over to my night table, grabbed the inhaler and took a puff. Otherwise, I'm burning and my chest is on fire every morning and every night for my whole life. I had already got to the point where my heart was running backwards, inverted T waves. My lungs were always clogged up. They looked like, they told me it looked like emphysema on my x-rays because of all the phlegm and the junk particles all through my lungs. It was speckled from head to toe. And I had hardening of the arteries and the high pressure coming out of the bottom of the heart, the bottom artery. So that's me. In that session, they told me, okay, so now you've had a life-changing event. We see this always. Stick around, you'll watch others. And I did. They said, we understand you have asthma, so we're going to send you back to the room at the end of the day with a mat. You put it in the bed and run it tonight. If you feel like you don't need to do the puff because you don't get the big burning and the asthma, then just run the mat and see if you make it through the night. And you should. And the next morning, same thing. So sure enough, that night, I didn't even have a tickle. I mean, that was incredible. So I ran the full body mat. I didn't even do this little concentrated pillow. That works even better because that targets areas. And we could target densities of tissue, layers of tissue specifically. So I could target lungs, I can target bone, I can target the eyes, lymphatics, digestion. We found that the brain and the belly are almost identical, and they really are, aren't they? They look the same even. Intestines, brain. They target under the optimal curve, the bell curve for physical and biological effect. It also targets different states of mind, parasympathetic or in the middle or sympathetic. We can flip the switch and run any one of the three. For the pro ball players, for professional ball games, they increase their stamina and their strength. So their endurance and strength, 20 to 30% when they flip that vital switch, and they end up breaking their own records on the very first sessions that they try this machine.
Well, that is just incredible. I mean, I love hearing stories like this where people are using well-established technology to heal their chronic issues. And it's just working with, how the body naturally works, just increasing the cell voltage. And then voila, the body works how it's supposed to. It has the energy that it needs to heal.
Yeah. I never believed the body could heal itself that well. I always felt like it just wasn't strong enough. And maybe it worked when we were younger for some reason, but it doesn't work now as we're, getting into adulthood. And I went through some things. I mean, I had my disease going the whole time. But when I tried this thing and I energized the cells up, I mean, you feel good right away. Your brain starts working immediately when it gets a huge increase of oxygen. One of the studies with this product showed 80 to 900% increase in oxygen saturation to the tissues. Everybody feels it. They feel it immediately, and it doesn't just wear off. It goes all day. And then when you do it at night, it goes all night. But the key is to relax the body and get rid of these EMFs. They stress us also. So when we relax, everything functions better.
Yeah, my biggest concern with 5G coming is that the amount of megahertz that it's pulsing at is just going to be like a jackhammer to our body's electrical system, our energy field, our pineal gland. It's just going to be just hitting it so hard. We're not going to be producing melatonin. Our bodies are going to be stressed out all the time. Cortisol. There's going to be a rash of sleep issues in addition to other issues. And so
it's already happening.
Yeah, it's already happening, but it's worse. It's going to get worse.
It's the Wi-Fi. Yeah, Wi-Fi is, 3 billion to 6 or 8 billion tick, 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 tick a second. But when you have such tight frequency pulses, you actually lose the energy, the voltage, or the power. It's very low. So they're trying to, make people feel like it would never hurt us. Now on the internet, it's being revealed how it's hurting us. We have such smart people in the world now, and they're all talking worldwide, internationally. It's photo communication between the cells. One cell in the body, like when I scratch my nose like this, my feet know it. The whole body knows it. And it's through photon release, actual light energy release that goes between the cells from cell to cell to cell throughout the whole body. Wi-Fi disrupts that, and 5G will disrupt that in a big way. So we're going to start losing some communication there. Doesn't mean necessarily we're going to damage our tissues. You see, when I'm talking about the one that really hurts us now, it's 60 hertz. This is 50 to 60 hertz of EMF.
The cell
So
phone.
when you, yeah, and not just cell phones. It's everything. Your power outlets, your Bluetooth mouse, your mouse pad. When you plug them in, they're on 0 EMF. The electronics that run the Bluetooth is normally what gives you the big zap of EMF. But these are all 60 hertz. That's only 60 tick, 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 tick a second. So these are very wide waveforms with energy, and they pack a punch. When you get Wi-Fi, you're so tight, it's hitting the space between our cells. It's the energy between all of our particles. But we need that too.
Yeah, and some people are particularly sensitive to EMF. I mean, there's people now that are just completely debilitated. They can't go near electronics. They can't go outside. They just are so sensitive to this and are debilitated because of it.
I've met quite a few people since beginning my own journey with this. Exactly as you spoke, they cannot even walk into a supermarket because the lights and the freezers, those motors, I mean, they get sick. They turn white as a ghost and they will throw up. It hits them instantly. And those genomic people, the scientists, they came from all over the world last fall. It was amazing for me. They showed the mechanism of how those people are affected and which gene is causing it. And then they go and do the 21andMe and do their whole gene chart, and it's substantiated. They had all these people stand up and give their testimonials and show their charts and what their problems have been throughout their lives. And what they found was if you just keep the electromagnetics high around your they call it mast cells, your healing initiators through the body, that they can then select properly for healing and fixing different parts of the body. There's 200 selections that they make. So that's the science behind it. They say it's like keeping a gas tank full. If it's full, you run optimally. Even with electromagnetics, it's also needed to stay ahead of everything.
Like you have resilience.
Yes, exactly. And children do. They really, really do until a certain point. But I mean, think about it. Our children today, they're on the phones and the iPads day and night. They probably fall asleep with them right here. And it's not hurting them until their voltage energy drops in all of their tissues, all of their cells in the body. And then it hits. And then they're like old people. And they're starting to get achy and cranky and loss of sleep. The number one comment when I see people running these systems at the medical conferences, my wife does these conferences all year long. They always come back the next day and say, I slept really good. Like, really, I haven't slept in 10 years. It was the machine, wasn't it? And we're like, yeah, just stand here a couple of minutes. Sure enough, another doctor walks up and we say, so did you sleep well last night? He goes, oh my God. He goes, I don't usually sleep. Was it this? Is this what did it? And I go, just stand here. Before long, we have 4, 5, 6 doctors all coming up saying the same thing. So now when we go to conferences, my wife, she says, all right, let's see who slept well last night.
Line up the doctors to tell us they slept.
Get them in here. Yeah. So it's everywhere. We see it everywhere.
Yeah. So where can we get this met? Where can we get one of these and benefit from them?
So you just go to the purewavenow.com website. You can do the contact, and then either a doctor or a clinic they'll call from here and contact back and say, okay, here are the people in your area. Here are the doctors and clinics in your area that can run sessions. They can sell units. They give education and instruction on how to use them. They're very easy to use, but still, it's a medical device. They call it an energy medicine device. And it does need maybe a little tweaking, a week or two into beginning using it. You start out going after the injured areas, as I refer it to, and within a week or so, you've generally seen a huge amount of relief, and now it's lasting even longer and longer and longer. And it doesn't come back as bad each time. It's less and less. So after that, then they lower the numbers down and tweak them just a little bit. And this is what all of the doctors do with their patients. They lower it down to now clean up the area and whisk away the damage in those areas that were having issues or problems.
So you have to do 2 sessions a day?
You should, yes. It's really designed as a maintenance product. However, in running these health institutes and in putting the products in there, they found within just a week, they had so many of their clients coming to the management saying, look, it fixed me, it fixed me, it fixed this, it fixed that, that they saw the changes. They made it required therapy on every person coming to these health institutes, that they must have at least 3 sessions per week, because when you do 1 session, it's a big wow. So it's really good. But when you do 3 sessions in 1 week, it's really, really good. The changes and the effects and corrections are phenomenal, and they're definite, and you see the changes, you feel the changes, you see it on the other people. But then running 6 sessions or 12 sessions, that's where you're really set pretty good. And it doesn't go backwards no matter what has changed. Like with me, I had glasses ever since high school. And I wore these glasses far away and up close and night driving. So I have 3 different pairs ever since high school. And it was getting worse as I'm getting, into my 50s and then 60s. So I noticed after we were on the system running it automatically in the bed, after 3 months, my teeth corrected. My periodontist said, oh my God, what are you doing? It went backwards. And I said, what do you mean? Where am I at? She said, look, they're all 2s and 3s, and your gums grew back completely on the bottom jaw. And she goes, I don't know about the bone. I go, well, let's x-ray it. We x-rayed it. It grew back 50% in most of the big spaces.
And that's well established in the research that PEMF grows back bone. We know that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fully FDA approved. And that's just with 1 single frequency, only concentrating on the frequency cut codes around bone signals. That's all. Realize you can do the whole body. Why not? So that's what these people did. And that's where their technology came from. In 1 month, my teeth were completely rejuvenated. My gums were all closed up, no more roots showing on any of the teeth, and my bone has grown back. It's so good that you would never know I ever had a problem in my whole life.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, and glasses, no more.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm like, you look really young. You look really, really healthy.
Yeah, my skin changed. Everything is, I'm not supposed to say it. But
everything's working.
We call it youthing instead of aging.
Yes, anti-aging. Yes.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of energy, and then the cells, they have all their communication. They're all like stem cells. Every cell in the body has a job, and they know what it is. It's a DNA chart of what they follow, their daily workload. So every cell knows what to do. Problem is, when you take like a flashlight, half the battery juice is gone and the light dims, and that's how much of a flashlight you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
So when you have a cell that's running at half power, 40, 50 millivolts, you used to run at 80 or 90 or 100. Well, the cell's still there. They keep reproducing, but they keep dysfunctioning, and when they reproduce, they're using energy, and slowly we lose energy. That's what aging and disease and injury is. It's loss of energy in the cells, and then those tissues and cells now dysfunction. So what this system does is it regulates, it energizes everything back up, and things start running optimally, and they haven't lost their instructions. They know what to do, just like when we were little children. So this is amazing. Now I can understand why, maybe 20 or 30 years ago, the world wasn't ready for this, and the governments were very afraid of things like this. But now the doctors are the ones who are bringing this to the public. Yeah. They're bringing it to their patients. They're showing how it works. The doctors can show testimonials and studies. And we receive them. My wife, Toni Goren, she gets these things every day, every other day from doctors all over that are running the system and showing the changes in their patients, and they're allowed to tell and show and do more science substantiation to go further with it. Everything works well when the cells are pumped up and energized. And I never realized how important that was, even through all the years of schooling and experience working in the hospitals. I never realized that was really the key. They didn't teach us this. It's not in the schools. It will be, though.
Yes, yes, it will. Yes, it will, if we can help
Yeah.
it.
You are. You absolutely are. You're bringing it to the world. And now, yeah. And next, it needs to be in the medical schools. And we need to be teaching even children in high school. This thing is burning radiation, and it's going to be worse. Yeah, when it hits 5G, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm really concerned about that. But with tools like the Pure Wave mat, I mean, you can have protection against EMF and cleaning your body of EMF and reversing the damage that EMF does. So you have lots of tools to be able to reverse this damage, even though we have 5G coming and we can't control it. It's coming. We can control our bodies and the damaging effects that this EMF and dirty electricity and Wi-Fi and everything has on our bodies. So James, thanks so much for coming on the show. So appreciate your really clear, detailed explanation of how the body works and how it's affected and how the Pure Wave mat improves its functioning. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, and everyone, thanks for listening to the Myers Detox podcast, where every week we talk about cutting edge biohacking, health technology, heavy metal detoxification, and detox protocols. So thanks for tuning in every week, and I will talk to you next week.